Have you ever stopped to think, after all, where are the new emotions of Riley's parents? Or could the villain in the Inside Out movie be anxiety or envious? Inside Out seems to be a well-kept secret by Disney, but we regret to inform Mickey that we've gathered various details and super important trivia that Inside Out fans need to pay attention to before watching the new Pixar movie. To find out everything, just stick with us. Emotions of both genders. A question that any Inside Out fan has asked at some point is why Riley has both masculine emotions like fear and anger and feminine emotions like joy, sadness, and disgust. In her dad's mind, all emotions are masculine, and in her mom's mind, all emotions are feminine. The truth is, this mystery, filled with various theories, seems to grow even bigger. Among the 5 confirmed new emotions, 3 will be masculine and 2 feminine. Yes, you read it right, 5 new emotions in Inside Out confirmed, as we explained in our video about Inside Out's secret emotion on our channel. We'll talk more about it in a moment. But with these new emotions, it will be 5 masculine and 5 feminine, creating a tie. One of the main reasons for this division in Riley's mind involves the theory that it's a genetic inheritance from her parents. Another reason is to cater to both male and female audiences, and Disney makes this division to maintain viewership and box office success, which makes a lot of sense, to be honest. This leads us to wonder, where are the new emotions in the parents? Well, folks, if Riley's mind is going to have new emotions like anxiety, envious, embarrassed, and ennui, it means that anyone living in the Inside Out universe should proportionally have at least some of these new Riley emotions in their heads too, don't you agree? And the 2 people whose minds have been explored the most in Inside Out, after Riley, are undoubtedly her mom and dad. We noticed that in their minds, just like Riley's, we also have the 5 basic emotions, each with their well-defined genders, as we mentioned before. But besides these 5, we don't see any indications of any others. Another person whose mind we get a glimpse of is Jordan, Riley's crush candidate. Because, if you stop to think about it, the moment Riley bumps into him and her mind goes into a panic, that could be the perfect moment for envious or perhaps even anxiety to make an appearance. After all, who hasn't felt envious or anxious when getting close to their crush, right? Girl. But the absence of these 2 feelings in Jordan's mind, at least, is reasonable, considering boys mature later than girls. There's no fighting against it, it's biological. But when it comes to Riley's parents, this is truly a mystery that has intrigued fans, and we're eager to know how Pixar will explain it. We even have a theory about it, which is the existence of a large control center. This theory would explain a lot and help tie up all the loose ends that Inside Out's trailer left, fitting better into the next story. The idea is that in Riley's head there is a department, so to speak, where all 27 emotions, according to psychology, are waiting to be released and start operating in the control center where the 5 basic emotions live. This would justify anxiety showing up with 6 suitcases as if moving in, and also explain why anxiety and the other new emotions already know each other, since anxiety says we would like to make a good impression. In other words, she's not alone, and she knows who's accompanying her.
A new emotion! Wow!
Oh, I'm sorry. We wanted to make such a good first impression.
What do you mean, we?
The fact that the first 5 emotions don't know any of them could be explained by the fact that being the first, they didn't see when the brain's construction team, the same one that caused chaos in the trailer, built the place where all emotions live. And as Riley grew up, the brain, the boss of everyone in the movie, in the end, created and stored each of the other 22 emotions, releasing them as Riley awakened to new feelings during her maturation as a human being. This would help explain many doubts fans have about the movie and would help understand why these new emotions are emerging, especially now that they will be divided evenly between masculine and feminine emotions. Because, as we mentioned, there is indeed a hidden emotion in the movie, and you should pay close attention to Schadenfreude. As I mentioned, we have a video that shows all the evidence that Schadenfreude is the 5th new emotion and will be the 10th overall in Inside Out 2. If you haven't watched our other video, we'll explain it quickly here. This emotion is based on a German word meaning satisfaction. But it's not just any satisfaction, it's that feeling of happiness everyone has felt at least once in their life when, guess what? They saw someone else's misfortune. And for this specific sensation, the Germans gave the name Schadenfreude. In fact, in the 2010 pilot of Inside Out, this emotion was present. But like ennui, pride, and hope, it was cut from the final script. But some will appear in the second movie, like ennui itself, and most likely Schadenfreude. Write it down, because we are sure it will happen at some point in Inside Out 2. Bing Bong! Another thing we need to pay attention to is the possibility of Bing Bong reappearing in Inside Out 2. After his heroic sacrifice to help Joy reach the Emotions Control Center, it seems he was completely erased in Riley's memory graveyard, which, despite being very sad, is something we can understand. After all, who remembers much about when they were 2 or 3 years old, the age when Riley created Bing Bong? But surprisingly, this could be one of the biggest surprises of Inside Out 2, since even though Riley doesn't remember it much, his encounter with joy and sadness in the midst of Riley's memory depositories creates a strong expectation that these emotions will make Riley remember Bing Bong, maybe even bringing him back. Because, remember, Bing Bong was created by Riley's mind out of her desire for a friend. And who knows, at some point in Inside Out 2, she might feel so lonely that she recalls when she created Bing Bong. It's a possibility. After all, dreaming doesn't cost anything, right? But talking about Bing Bong and his tragic end brings up another detail you should watch out for in Pixar's new movie. Will any emotion cease to exist? Yes, it's possible, believe it or not. First, we have to understand that emotions simply arise in a person's mind based on the feelings they experience throughout life. That's how joy emerged when Riley saw her parents, and sadness too when she cried for the first time. And at some point, which the first movie doesn't show, each of the other emotions simply appeared and became part of the control panel team. And if we look closely, we'll see that Pixar made each emotion from pure energy microparticles. In other words, they don't have skin or anything like us humans, which was a brilliant move by Pixar. But this creates the possibility that when an emotion simply falls into total disuse, it can disappear just as quickly as it appeared. Don't you agree? For example, anxiety simply appeared in Riley's mind because it's a new feeling she, now as a teenager, started to experience. But in the future, she could perfectly well no longer experience anxiety, and this emotion would simply cease to exist, which would explain, for example, the absence of this emotion in the minds of all the other characters in the movie, who have their 5 basic emotions. In fact, if you look closely, you'll see that the school bus driver has 5 emotions in his head that are actually just one: anger. Poor driver, he doesn't even have the 5 basic emotions. But maybe he did once, and they all disappeared or turned into anger only. This leads to another possibility. Emotions can transform. Yes, our bus driver friend from the post-credit scene is an example that this is possible. After all, as we mentioned, in this poor man's control panel, there are 5 angers. But they are each a different color, which means they were probably the other emotions: joy, sadness, disgust, and fear. And over time, and the affliction of life, i.e. having to work hard every day, they probably molded and all ultimately turned into our beloved anger. What we don't know is whether with some kind of treatment or a visit to the psychologist, these emotions can return to being who they originally were, which I believe is quite possible. But that means, for example, that if the small and sweet envious can become so big and powerful in Riley's life and mind, the other emotions can also corrupt and all become copies of envious. Of course, for this to happen, Riley would have to reach a level of obsessive envious, which we don't believe will happen, but it is possible in the Inside Out universe. These are all the details and points that you and I need to keep an eye on when watching Inside Out 2. This promises to be one of the most entertaining Disney Pixar movies in the coming times. And to keep you in this fun vibe, we've selected these 2 videos for you to choose from and continue watching super cool videos.